I'm in West Bradenton. I am currently sitting at the end of a very quiet residential street over here by GT Bray Park. These people you see here are protesting and rallying outside of one of our school board member private residence. So we've got Andrew Griffin out here. On an amp with a speaker. These people have neighbors. This is not downtown. This is at this woman's home. Here's the neighbors that they're being so respectful of. You know, like I said, this is a residential neighborhood. This is our school board member's private home. And these people are out here with a PA at 6 o'clock in the evening on a weekday. And what they're protesting, what they're mad about, is they're mad because they don't want a mask mandate. Well, we don't have a mask mandate. What we have is masks required unless you have an opt-out. So anybody can opt out. You don't need to have a medical form or anything. Yeah, the other one that shows up at all the meetings or the board meetings. This guy's hat says Proud Boy, as does this one over here. So she has brought the Proud Boys down here to protest at our school board member's house. A school board member who didn't even vote for a mask mandate, folks. We have about 2,000 cases of COVID in our schools right now on week 4. And these guys are out here protesting the woman who didn't even vote to really change anything. He did, in fact, try to do something to get testing in schools. There was that, but by no means is that an infringement on anybody's personal rights. So then, on top of that, they're mad about a millage tax, I think, and which also this particular school board member did not vote for. It's 6 p.m. on a day, and they are outside her private residence on a megaphone. Proud Boys here hiding their faces. Oh, there's another Proud Boy up there on his shirt. They're screaming out with the commie. Just to be clear, Mary Foreman is a registered Republican. They could pick any number of public spaces, but they are choosing to come and block this road in a residential neighborhood to scream at a woman about things that she did not even do. They're mad that she voted for a mandate, which we don't have one. We have opt-out, and it doesn't even require, like, I could send my kids to school and they wouldn't even need to wear a mask and I wouldn't need to sign a piece of paper and it would be fine. Another board member tried to push for a mask mandate with no opt-out, and this particular board member that they're protesting right now wouldn't support that. And again, 2,000 students and teachers have now tested positive for COVID in our county. A teacher died on Friday think it is totally okay to be out here at 6 p.m. on a, what night is this? A Thursday night, screaming over a PA at this woman's house with all her neighbors around. This is where we're at right now. This is the civic discourse, if you will, of not just our county, but the United States.
Are you a communist?
Am I a communist?
Marxist?
Marxist?
Oh, you're one of those people that want to in the house. You know what, woman? You know the funny thing is you're all alone. You're all by yourself in that vehicle.
It's my kids.
Oh, you got your daughter.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, y'all are acting like this to my kids. Okay, friends, this is the level of... Can you please stop? Thank you. Again, we have 2,000 positive cases in our district schools at the moment, and we've been open about 4 weeks. A teacher died on Friday, and these people are out here in the road in a residential neighborhood with megaphones and hollering and speakers protesting a board member's house who literally would not support a mask mandate with no opt-out, who did not vote for the millage. We have another guy with a Proud Boy shirt. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out loud Proud Boys out here.
Snapping your plate.
He can snap my plate all he wants. They're trying to intimidate me is what they're trying to do, and I'm not intimidated. What have I done other than sit here and film them on a public street where they felt totally justified to be out here in a residential neighborhood? These people, they're elected officials. Yes, they're public servants. So yes, they're in the public eye. But it is not appropriate, in my mind, to then take it upon yourself. This is her residential street. You see all these cars? To then take it upon yourself to go ahead and show up at these people's private homes. That's not where their work happens. You want to go downtown? Fair game. You want to go down a main street? Fair game. But going to somebody's house on a Thursday evening with a megaphone and an amplifier, Gal and this woman, I guess, are passing out flyers to her neighbors. This is not protesting. This is not activism. This is intimidation. All of this to me just seems like not okay no matter what side of the spectrum you're on. I wouldn't be supporting this no matter who was doing it.
This is not what courageous acts of civil protest look like. Says Mitch Maley. Sunday, September 5th, 2021. On Thursday night, throngs of right-wing protesters set up camp outside the home of Manatee County School Board Mary Foreman's home to protest. Well, precisely what they were protesting wasn't all too clear. However, the scene was emblematic of the state of political discourse in 2021, in which so-called activists don't really need a reason for their anger, just heart which is dispute. At least part of the point seemed to be the school board state, which really isn't mandated at all, since anyone who wishes can opt out of it, a facet of the policy that Foreman, a conservative Republican, supported. In fact, the big fight over hours and hours of unhinged public comment on the issue essentially came down to whether it would be called a mask mandate and a mandate with an opt-in. If those two things sound like the same thing to you, that's because they are, in every meaningful way, the same damn policy. Nevertheless, Foreman, a retired CPA who ran up to help board provide oversight of the district's many fiscal problems and received endorsements from every pro-Trump group in the county before being let over, is finding out exactly how difficult it is to appease the very vocal lunatic fringe of the party. Encampment outside of Foreman's house included the sort of angry middle-aged white women commonly found screaming about tyranny from the podium at school board and county commission meetings, along with a group of mostly out-of-town Proud Boys, who are always eager to jump to an issue regardless of whether it affects them, so long as it offers a chance for some attention. The irony in fact of protesting an optional face covering policy while exercising their personal option to wear face covering while doing so, though ordered their deputies for the benefit of another's health, was apparently lost on most in attendance. The only thing sadder than that disconnect was the poor child someone brought along who had a sign that meant to insult Foreman by way of declaring the two members who voted against the policy as being smarter than her, only to have misspelled smarter. TBT reporter Don Kitterman was on site to get video of the event, but apparently media attention, normally called protest, was unappreciated, as this spectacle seemed purely meant to intimidate Foreman and or give those participating their social media accounts, most of which were adorned the next day with photos of them flashing the OK sign, a gesture commonly meant to express white power, yawn. Kitterman, who had her dude in the car with her, was subjected to the sort of harassment only now come to expect at such gatherings, as Proud Boy members took pictures of her license plate and the women screamed at her, demanding to know if she was a communist, double yawn. Her video can be viewed below. Some of them claimed the reason were harassing Foreman at her home was that she failed to acquiesce to their demands at the meeting, you know, the public meeting that exists to facilitate such discourse. Newsflash, we live under a representative democracy. As such, the loudest voice doesn't always win. As those voices so often remind us when it suits them, elections have consequences, and that's why the ballot box is the proper place to get what you want in a representative democracy. When you find yourself on the prevailing side of a race or issue, you sometimes have to accept it as the other side of the coin when living in a democratic society. Were Foreman and other public servants to capitulate to every angry mob that storms their driveway, that would actually represent the sort of tyranny they seem to think they're living under. A majority of Americans favor mask policies in schools right now, including here in Manatee County. The current policy is actually closer to the minority's position than the majority on this one. Take the win. If that's not good enough, go ahead and organize, go ahead and protest, but do it at the venues that are meant for such discourse, like outside of the board's chambers. Showing up at the home of a little old lady on the local school board in an effort to intimidate her into taking your side is not only a very bad look, but it's ineffective, at best. She's free to vote as she sees fit. That sort of masked mob bullying is, and again, I appreciate that the irony is probably lost on those who most need to hear it, in direct contradiction to the very value that they claim to be defending. Dennis Mitch Maley is an editor and columnist for the Bradenton Times and the host of our weekly podcast.